So much fun to write. She's so creepy. He's reluctantly become king after the murders of his parents and brother.
Hello, I am Lila Mary, and this week I'm interviewing author Laura Fitzwilson about her book, The Fool. So, hi Laura, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. Could you please give us a short summary of The Fool in your own words?
Yeah, no worries. So, The Fool is a low spice fantasy romance. It's sometimes silly, it's sometimes serious, but it's always earnest. It's a story of a third-born prince who has reluctantly become king after the murders of his parents and brother. His kingdom is in shambles. His family's murderers are getting bolder. He thinks that his biggest problem is that the castle fool keeps making fun of him. Just as much about like grief and duty as it is about romantic love, and it's got a lot to do with sibling relationships as well.
Oh, wonderful. I love any book with premise of a reluctant king or a recently crowned king who never thought he would be. It's one of my favorite tropes in books, so I adored that this was the premise for The Fool.
Yeah, I think I wanted this antagonistic relationship between the king and the fool. I'm sure that it could have been written if it was an established king, but I really wanted Leo to be like chucked in the deep end. He's got to deal with, like, he's never thought of any of this before, so that the fool really has some stuff to dig into. Like he can, the fool can make fun of Leo's inadequacies and crises of self-confidence because Leo just hasn't done any of it before.
Yeah, absolutely. Why did you choose to name the book after The Fool?
So it's kind of named after this is me like trying to be a lot more clever than I needed to be. It's also kind of named that, oh, is it about the fool or is Leo in fact the fool? I call him foolish a few times through the book just to sort of make that comparison because he's, fish out of water, that kind of thing. And the cover artist did just like such a fantastic job with the cover because it's got like this jester hat, but the shape of it is quite evocative of a crown. So it really is like their dynamic is supposed to mirror each other. Yeah, you've got that speculation about, is this about a king who is foolish or a fool who is knows what it's doing?
And this isn't part of the question I wrote, but I couldn't help wondering. I just kept thinking of the first card of tarot, the Fool, when I was reading, and I wondered if that was at all an influence.
Oh my god, yes. No, I love that you brought that up because I made this vest for my book launch. It's got the full tarot card. The Fool is wearing like this tunic, and the design for the tunic is on the back of my vest. I'll shoot you a picture later because I really like it.
I love that. I thought about that. I thought, no, it's the King's Fool. This is a very common thing. It's probably not to do with tarot, but that's just where my mind went. Tell us a bit about Leo's private and mysterious admirer. What makes him so alluring to Leo and so different from the rest?
Basically, like, the mystery man, a lot of his appeal is that he's mysterious, so I'm not going to go into his character too much. And I think that, the way that character has sort of portrayed himself, he would have done it in a different way if he hadn't decided on how he was going to present himself last minute. Basically, Leo becomes king. He's been away from his kingdom for 5.5 years. It's his home, but also so much has changed. He's got these siblings who are incredibly supportive of him. They're also a little bit distant, and you've got there's this secret that they have that he isn't a part of that's a bit of a barrier between them. And also they keep telling him complain about being a king or whatever because it's not like he can change it. So just get on with it. I think that in the face of that, him being able to have a bit of a bent to this mystery man and then have a bit of a flirt, it's the only relationship that he has where he doesn't think that someone wants something from him or that he has to hold himself back. Yeah, it's a good recipe. And then also they have nice chemistry and stuff as well. So
yeah, I love the trope of the love interest for a character like a king being the one person who doesn't want anything, and the king is perplexed by that, and sure, it's a ruse, but I love that trope.
Yeah, me too.
Leo has a colorful group of siblings. Which of them was your favorite to write? I know favorites are hard for authors.
So hard. And there are each of the siblings has such good qualities to them. I think that his older brother Con has this really sort of hesitant, charismatic way of talking that I really enjoyed writing. His twin brother Dickie is dead, but pretty present as a character because your twin dies, you're thinking about him a bit. Seen Red Dwarf?
No. No.
classic sci-fi series, but there's like this uptight, really stickler for the rules, like just the worst character ever, but also kind of charming in being the worst, if you know what I mean. And that's kind of where I'm going with Dickie, and like I just really enjoyed writing those little excerpts from him. And then Max is just like, I really love kids who think they're adults, so I had a lot of fun with that. But Ada is my favorite. Bit of a roundabout way of getting there, but like I absolutely adore her. I think that she is really sort of chaotic and stuff, but also she thinks she's much more chaotic and impressive than she actually like holds herself to these incredibly high standards, and then unfortunately for her she meets them a lot of the time. So much fun writing her, and she's going to be a bigger part of the sequel.
She was also one of my favorites for all those reasons. I just love a woman in a character who deludes herself but also meets those delusions.
Yeah, exactly. And like she's so good at, like, she's clever and all these sort of things, and then she is absolutely rubbish at social stuff, but she's convinced herself that she doesn't really care about that. So
yeah, love that. What were your inspirations for the book?
I actually think that I saw one of those Tumblr posts where it's like the king and the fool, like a bit of a jokey relationship thing. Like it might have been 3 sentences long. You see them going around every now and then. It's like, the fool jingled miserably across the room or whatever.
Yeah, I think I know the post you're talking about.
Yeah. And that just made my brain go, yeah, like I really want to do that. Like in terms of as I kept on writing, I know that the Assassin's Apprentice series by Robin Hobb is a huge inspiration. There's a really fun dynamic between this very strange fool who is devoted beyond words to this king, and I really enjoyed that. The Locked Tomb series by Tamsin Muir, you can have a fantasy story and also have a lot of fun with it.
Definitely.
Yeah, I know that as I was developing the characters, I got a fair way in, and then I was like, you want these characters to have 3 dimensions and exist as people, and I made little Homestuck introduction pages for them. So like in Homestuck, it's a webcomic, you get introduced to these characters with like, your name is Laura Fitzwilson and these are your interests and all that kind of thing, and it just makes them even the smallest characters have such life to them, and that really helped me. A lot of that stuff didn't get actually into the book. It gave me a greater sense of their voice and their motivations and stuff like that.
Firm believer that even if you don't end up using all of the lore or the detail about characters that you make, even if it doesn't go in the book, it will help you write them in a more full-bodied way where they really feel real to the reader. Just having that as a writer is so helpful.
Yeah, I think a lot of books would have benefited from people thinking, what is this character's hobbies?
Yeah, like a character that when they're not helping the main character, what do they do? Or do they just exist to revolve around the main character? What types of magic do we see in the book?
So it's interesting. We've got this empress gets given these divine powers, and whatever she says, that's what the world becomes, and she passes it down to her descendants as well. When she first got her powers, like it was whatever she wanted happened, and then she decided, okay, no, I should probably at least speak aloud to define it so that I'm not just accidentally doing things willy-nilly, like it's actually an intentional practice. And I put in a few different rules along the way, so the characters have to use words that really make them feel powerful and special, so they're using unusual words and words that feel good to say and that kind of thing. And all of the magic comes from the Empress and her descendants. I've had a few people say, like, because there are Indigenous characters in my book, like, what if the First Nations people had their own kind of magic to sort of counterbalance the white people? And I just thought, nah, that's going into some territory that would be really difficult for me to navigate in a sensitive way. So that whole history of mysticizing First Nations people. So it's all through the Empress. And I did it quite intentionally in that way because, the Empress colonizes a fantasy version of Australia. Whatever she says goes. So it's a very literalization of the way that in our Australia, whatever the white people said happened, that's what the history books said happened, that's what happened. So like we had slavery in Australia, and there is almost no acknowledgement of that fact. The slaves weren't writing the history books, and it's just like a real history of whether the person in power says that's how it is, and that's how the magic system works in the world.
It's a really cool metaphor and a way to explain a magic system. I've very rarely seen something like that in the fantasy world, and I love that here.
Yeah, and like it's not like a huge part of the Fool, because like I didn't want to encourage the point of view character Leo. He is a king, he's part of this system, so it's really difficult for him to see what informs the system. But there's just like little bits of hints that maybe colonization was not like the best thing for the people who were already there. I'm going to explore it a little bit more. I've got a side novella from the Fool's perspective, and it has First Nations ancestry in it as well, so it sort of looks like into that a little bit more, and I think there'll be a continuous theme on maybe empires are not so good, actually.
What would you say is Leo's biggest struggle?
He would say it's the castle Fool. Completely displaces his problems onto the fact that there's this silly little guy who makes jokes about him and pushes him into fountains and stuff. And that is a problem that he has, but it's more that it makes Leo look foolish, that it makes it look like he doesn't know what he's doing, and he doesn't know what he's doing. So it's like revealing a truth there. His biggest struggle is that he had no preparation for this. He had an older brother. He was not supposed to be the king. Like, he probably thought that his dad was immortal, really, because he's such a strong character in his life. And then all of a sudden he's chucked into this. No one in his kingdom has seen him in like 5.5 years. So they've got this idea in their head of a 16-year-old. It's not super compatible with their idea of a strong ruler. So he's just really butting up against the fact that no one is taking him seriously, least of all himself, like really needing to build his confidence.
Very on the nose that the Fool wouldn't bother him so much if what the Fool was saying wasn't true.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you have a favorite character in this book? Again, I know favorite's very hard.
No, and when I saw this question on the list, I was like, oh god, all of them. And kind of joke answer is Gwyn, the tailor. I just had so much fun writing her scene. Someone pointed out, and they pointed it out. I'm like, oh my god, that actually was my inspiration, wasn't it? That she looks a lot like Edna Mode from The Incredibles. Chuck her in there. It makes a fun dynamic. And also, I really love the Fool. Lots of fun to write those sort of slapstick scenes, and then also have its character develop, find some things that it can actually take seriously, which I think, like, genuinely up until the point of like midway through the novel, it has never taken anything seriously in its whole life. So it's really fun to write that.
Fool is such a well-rounded three-dimensional character, which is not what you would expect from a character literally called the Fool. So is there a moment you can't wait for readers to experience for the first time?
There's a reveal like 2/3 of the way in that everyone is going to see coming. Everyone does see coming, and that's fine. Like I'm basically promoting it as part of my Instagram posts and everything. So there's no mystery there, but it kind of is a mystery to Leo, and that's a nice moment when he finds that out. But there's also a little reveal like right at the end, and no one has seen that coming. So I enjoy that a lot. I also really love there's a chapter where a lot of fantasy novels, fantasy stories, they have like their big celebration is in winter, like it'll be a Yule or something like that. Our putting Christmas onto a fantasy world. In the Southern Hemisphere, Christmas happens in summer. The big celebration for their calendar is summertide, and I had so much fun writing this chapter where for once Leo gets to relax, and it's like really soft scene, very much, oh dear, we're actually falling in love here with him and his mystery man. And yeah, I actually had some art commissioned for that scene, and it's just beautiful. I'm really pleased with everything about it.
Oh, that's wonderful. That was, of all the scenes you could have got commissioned, that's a wonderful one.
Yeah, because I think, they're on top of like this tower in a garden, and it's like they watch the sunrise. It's like so lovely. Yeah, so it's my desktop background on my laptop.
A very romantic scene. My favorite characters in the novel was the Empress. Can you touch a bit on who she is and what her legacy is? And also, was there tarot inspiration for her?
Well, no, not intentionally, but I did used to love tarot cards, so it's possible that like snuck in there subconsciously. Yeah, I spoke about her a little bit before with the magic system. She, like, if we think about this as fantasy Australia, the rest of the world still exists. It's just like, imagine there's this bubble over Australia that's caused by her magic, keeping everyone out. She lived in Europe and basically just got her way. She got this magic power. She didn't want to like get persecuted as a witch. She sailed south to find her own land. They'd been theorizing that there was like another continent on the southern hemisphere to like, they thought it was to balance out the world. We know now that that's not a necessary thing, but like coincidentally there is a continent on the southern hemisphere. So she like went there with her fleet of people and animals and food and all that kind of stuff. There was a sort of quite similar colonization story as happened with our Australia. She like truly and fully believes that she's perfect, mortal, and she's like so beautiful that no one can even describe what she looks like. Everything goes her way. So like even when there's like a few hints of, you know, past rebellions and things like that, and she's like, everyone loves me and has always loved me and has never had a problem with anything that I've done ever. But also, when there has been rebellions, I've crushed them like so easily, and it's my friend. So much fun to write. She's so creepy. When I started writing her scenes, I just wrote like thousands and thousands of words of backstory because I just like wanted to get this history in there, and I was really tempted for a good few days to write a side novel about her. But then I thought it's hard to do that without making her sympathetic. And she is like the colonizer. And maybe I shouldn't do that. She's going to be a character in the sequel. All of that notes, like as you said, it informs what you're writing. So I think she'll be fun to continue writing, especially as like you'll know because you've read the book. There's a change in her dynamic at the end that will be fun.
What do you hope readers take away from this?
Hope they finish it and their main reaction is, God, that was fun. Like there's some serious stuff in there. There's a lot of trauma and grief going on with the characters. There's, you know, violence and stuff like that. But funny book. It's a really interesting world. I think, you know, I have read fantasy stories that are set in Australia, but not a lot of them. And I think that the sort of way that I've constructed it with like, you know, this empress who's like, I like the aesthetics of the medieval times. And that's what we're going to have forever. Like, you know, it creates this really fun chivalric stuff going through. Readers want to stay in the world as much as I do, so that, you know, they look forward to the sequel. And yeah, I've got some like side novels or novellas or whatever they end up shaping out as planned. So I really hope that other people want to, you know, continue seeing stuff in the mailing list. If anyone would like to stay up to date with it, yeah, that'd be the way to do it, because, you know, who sees everything on social media?
Yeah, absolutely. The thing that all authors hope for is that a reader walks away from their book having enjoyed it. So
yes, exactly.
Yeah, no one loves our worlds more than us, and we just want to share that. Anything else you'd like to add that we haven't covered here?
Yeah, just like thank you for having me, and like thank you to the people who have read it so far. I released it about 7 weeks ago, and I've sold over 100 copies now, which is really exciting. I've got 4.67 stars on Goodreads. The reactions I've got have been so lovely. I've got fan art from 2 people who I don't even know. Like, it's just been such a wonderful experience releasing this book. And yeah, I'm just like really touched that I've been able to share this with the world.
That's incredible. Yeah, congratulations on the release. That's so huge. Tell the people where they can find you and where they can find The Fool.
Right. So I'm Laurasaurus on Tumblr. That's with an A instead of a U, which is a little bit confusing, but the U version was taken. Laura J. Fitzwilson on Instagram. And my website is laurajfitzwilson.com. On that website, there is a page dedicated to The Fool, and it has links to Amazon and Kobo and a few other places where you can buy the book. It's available at any bookshop and library if you request it in. They won't know to have it But I have got a friend who's requested it to a bookstore in Germany, and they have ordered it in for them. So it's definitely a possible thing to get it from your local bookstore if you'd like to, support them as well as me. To be honest, if you were to shoot me a DM and say, hey, I don't have $5 for the ebook, I would probably send it to you for free. So I just want to share it with people.
Yeah, I totally get that. So much for being here. It was such a pleasure to have you.
Thank you for having me.
To everyone watching, I will include the links to Laura's website in the description, where you can find The Fool. It is such a wonderful read. If you just want like a fun fantasy read with some queer characters and some political shenanigans, it's very fun. Encourage everyone to go read it. And I will also be leaving my review as well. Thank you everyone for watching.